All right. Welcome to the week 5 4-pack. I'm Bobby Skinner here with my little co-host, little friend. I don't know. I feel like this isn't a podcast, so I call it a co-host? I'm just here with my guy, my boy Justin Pennick. Um, four topics on NFL week 5. We're going to do it every week. Started with it last week. Justin, we're going to start off with the Falcons doing a little fire sale, but how you doing, my man?
We're
My boy.
two little people talking football, Bobby Skinner. We did it last week. It's funny how one of the things that we talked about was the NFC least, and we talked about if Dwayne Haskins gets benched, good chance the Washington Football Club finishes in third place. And then lo and behold, they pulled Dwayne Haskins. They didn't exactly look much better, but we're not talking about the NFC least today. Very depressed. Well, we are technically.
No.
We have one storyline, but
We were close to talking about Alex Smith. That was
yeah.
like the 5th topic that we cut out. But it's like, you know what? I really wanted to just do a troll tweet. Whenever I'm hanging out with my brother, he kind of like eggs me on to like troll Twitter, and I almost did like I'm sorry, but Alex Smith is horrible tweet, and but no one would have thought that was funny.
No, that would have not been a good timely tweet when everybody's tweeting out, "Oh, what a heroic story! Isn't it great to see Alex Smith back on the football field?" And then there's Bobby Skinner.
I'm sorry, but this
He's
dude
horrible.
is just horrible.
He really loses his leg. He's playing like one of the most barbaric sports in the world, and then there you are. He's horrible.
This guy sucks. You see Aaron Donald jumped on him like a backpack. Anyways, topic number 1. Falcons fire their GM, Thomas Dimitroff, and head coach Dan Quinn. Justin, the Falcons were 24-29 since their Super Bowl collapse. Dimitroff had been there since 2008. I mean, he drafted Matt Ryan, Julio Jones. Like, he is the one who kind of built that Super Bowl roster. But at the end of the day, the Falcons, even though they weren't putting up a ton of points, like last year they were scoring pretty well. They have always been good on offense, but Dan Quinn is a defensive coach, and the defense has just sucked. And it's like, oh, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take this role, blah, blah, blah. Dirk Cutter, I think, is their offensive coordinator now. And I really think, I know this isn't some hot take, and this is something that people say all the time, but that Super Bowl team was Kyle Shanahan's team. That was a Kyle Shanahan production.
Yeah, I know we're talking on mainly a Giants-centered YouTube channel right now, so I think this makes sense and people would appreciate this take. The Atlanta Falcons the last couple years, especially since their Super Bowl collapse, they've reminded me of the 2015 Giants and Tom Coughlin's last year, ironically enough, where not really a great team, but a quarterback that you feel like can really get the job done. Obviously, 2015 Giants did have Odell Beckham. Falcons today have Julio Jones. They have some capable weapons around the quarterback, but the team just can't finish. And that has been really the Falcons' bugaboo since that Super Bowl. It's finishing games and playing defense. It's a combination of, do we have the necessary means and the necessary ways to run the ball when we have this big lead? Since Devonta Freeman, it seemed like that answer has been no. And they just don't have the firepower on defense to really stop a team from just throwing the ball, because what you're doing when you're playing from behind is you're throwing the ball.
Yeah, and I kind of feel for Thomas Dimitroff a little bit, because like he did build that team. That team was in the playoffs every year with Mike Smith as the head coach.
Yeah.
And then they fired him for Dan Quinn after 2 years where they missed the playoffs. And then Dan Quinn comes in and it's like, oh, wow, they're going to Super Bowl. And, I mean, they were a 28-3 lead away from Dan Quinn being a Super Bowl winning coach.
Yeah. That's been a common theme of teams that have lost Super Bowls recently. Now, I know the Rams are starting to make a little bit of a comeback this year, and they look really good. There's still a chance that the Rams could finish third place in their division, though, because that's such a crazy division. Don't think they're worse than the Cardinals, but who knows what the records might be. But that's been a common place. It's been a common theme of teams that have not won the Super Bowl. You see the Eagles, they did win the Super Bowl, so that's a bad take. But I think you get my point. You even see the 49ers starting to lose it a little bit this year.
Raheem Morris is going to be the interim head coach. Do you know who Raheem Morris is? Do you know where his head coaching stint was?
No. It's a good trivia question.
Tampa Bay Bucks. He was the defensive backs coach. They fired and they promoted him to defensive coordinator, And then they fired Gruden because Gruden was trying to collect every QB ever. Like, it was comical. It's like, this guy just traded for Jake Plummer, who legit said he's not playing here. Now he's trying to trade for Brett Favre. He has Jeff Garcia. It's like, he's legit just trying to trade for every single quarterback there that's willing to be traded for. So they're just like, we got to get Gruden out of here. And then, so Raheem Morris went from DB coach to head coach. And then he got like a defensive coordinator job in Minnesota. And it's like, he's just not that good. But nonetheless, Raheem Morris is at the helm again as the interim coach. All right. Next topic in the 4-pack. The AFC North. Last week we talked about the NFC East sucking. Let's talk about how the AFC North is balling. The Steelers are 4-0. The Ravens are 4-1. The Browns are 4-1. The Bengals aren't very good. Justin, who's your team? Like, who's your fighter in this division? Like, who? If you're picking one of these teams, because you can make a really good case for all three.
You really can.
Except for maybe the Browns, because the Ravens did take care of them in week 1.
Yeah, but I would honestly be interested to see a rematch of that because of where the Browns' offense is. But you can just make an argument that the Ravens' defense is that good, unless you're playing Patrick Mahomes, which that's going to be a conversation a little later, how to stop Patrick Mahomes. But gosh, you have to say Ravens because they are the one team where they are nearly unstoppable if they have a lead, if they score first, number one, and if they really have a lead after the first quarter, because their defense isn't going to hold their defense. They're going to hold strong, and they're going to hold firm. Coach Chaos, no, not Coach Chaos. What's Wink Martindale? He's going to really bring the heat, and he's not going to be passive. He's not going to be passive. He's going to be aggressive. So you have to go with the Ravens, but the Browns have such an exciting offense. It doesn't matter if they're running the ball, not running the ball, but they have been running the ball. They're going to run play action all day. They're running. Stefanski's running exactly what he ran in Minnesota last year with the crossing routes going across the field to Jarvis Landry. Odell Beckham Jr. had another passing attempt this weekend, and it was to Hayden Hurst. This time was on the receiving end. And Big Ben's fun. Big Ben, they're methodically doing what they have to do to win the game, and the defense is coming up with plays. So
I honestly, I think I'm going Steelers, man. I know the defense hasn't lived up to the hype, but defenses come along as the season goes, especially with this shortened offseason. So I expect that defense to be up to stout as the season goes along. I mean, even then, TJ Watt has 4.5 sacks. Stephen Tuitt has 3.5.
He's defensive player of the year so far. TJ Watt is defensive player of the year.
Interception. Yeah, like they have 3 guys that are on pace for 10 sacks this year. And that's not including Cam Hayward, who had 8.5 last year. They found some magic in Chase Claypool. We both liked him out of the draft. We were kind of like a little scared. It was like, are we just falling for the height and then the 40 time?
Yeah.
But I have changed my mind on the combine. For wide receivers, I am taking I want to take a chance on the combine Warriors, because look at DK Metcalf, look at Claypool. Both those guys are having awesome years. Claypool had three receiving touchdowns, 1 on the ground yesterday. Pair that with Juju. I like what Big Ben's doing, man. He's completing 70% of his passes, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception. They're running the ball for 140 yards per game. They seem to be clicking, and they're just finding ways to win, even though like the defense hasn't been like lights out baller. I'm excited to see what this week it's Browns versus Steelers.
Yep.
I'm excited to see what the Browns look like against that Browns run offense versus the Steelers run defense, strength versus strength. Because Baker's been good, but Baker hasn't been lighting it up. I mean, he's completing like barely 61% of his passes, 200 yards per game. I mean, it's all the run game in Cleveland. They're rushing for 190 yards per game. And it's Kevin Stefanski. We talked about Stefanski last week, how much I like him. So I kind of go Steelers, although I think the safe bet is still the Ravens. Like, because the Ravens were 14-2 last year. Yeah. They have the reigning league MVP. He's not having the same caliber year, but they're still kind of balling. And the thing I love Wink Martindale and that Ravens defense, the way they blitz and play aggressive. Patrick Queen, the linebacker out of LSU. I knew when they drafted him that was going to probably be the best fit for a first-round draft pick, and he's been a baller. He's leading them in tackles. He's got a couple of sacks, 5 tackles for a loss, a couple forced fumbles. He's been a baller. He's fit in there perfectly.
Yeah, the Steelers have a tough schedule coming up. It's the Browns, it's the Titans, and it's the Ravens. They're undefeated right now. You would think after that 3-game stretch, and then they play the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas, who just lost Dak Prescott. You would think that they're not going to come away from those 3 games with still an undefeated record. If they are, I mean, look out. Look out. We're putting them right up there with what we think, of the Seattle Seahawks, the Kansas City Chiefs. We're thinking of them in that regard. And Bobby, about Lamar Jackson and getting to this quickly. Now, I'm not really going to fault the football team for not playing well against the Chiefs and letting Mahomes gash you and not keeping up with that offense. I'm not going to pick at them too much for that. But the Ravens are the kind of team where if they do get behind in games and you're asking them to play outside of their typical game plan every single week, they're very long. They do is in that offense. Andrews is a big play guy. Lamar Jackson's a big play guy just with his legs. They have big play wide receivers. But I still feel that they are very reliant on having the big drive, the 10-play, 90-yard drive, the 10-play, 75-yard drive, because they are a run-first team. I'm worried about how sustainable that could be, and this even gets into the question of, playoff Lamar. How sustainable is having those 10-play, 75-yard drives when you need to put up a ton of points? And this offense does put up a ton of points, but that could be a weakness of this team.
And that's kind of why I like the Steelers the best, is because they kind of can do, they can hit you through the air with those wide receivers. They can pound the rock. Their defense we expect to come along. So that's kind of why I like the Steelers. I don't trust the Browns fully, although, you know what, they put up a lot of points on the Colts, who were the top scoring D through the first quarter of the season going into the game. So, you got to be happy with that if you're a Browns fan. It just seems like that offense is clicking perfectly. I just wonder how teams will pick up on that offense as the year goes on, because defensive scheme catches up with offensive scheme as the season goes along, and even more so when you hit the playoffs. Do you see all 3 of these teams making the playoffs? I mean,
with the expanded playoffs.
Oh yes, I forget there's 7. I keep on forgetting that there's 7 teams in the playoffs this year.
I mean, I guess one of the things that you have to ask yourself, AFC
We'll talk about
East
the Raiders in a second. AFC East
has 2 teams. AFC West has
and AFC South. No
teams. AFC South, no, because they have the Colts,
the Jags, Texans, and the maybe, I don't know. I'm going to say all 3 of these teams make the division. That's a bold prediction, I guess.
Yeah, because then it's basically down between.
I'm going to say the team we talk about next won't make it in. The Bengals, they ran into a really good defense in the Ravens. Burrow looked pretty bad. The quick stuff wasn't there. That's what the Ravens do. They blitz and they play tight man coverage, and they do it well. And it's really hard to play against that. And Burrow did a little too much. AJ Green might be out of there. He has some of the worst separation numbers in the league, though. So you kind of would be trading for a name. Although, if as a Giants fan, I would celebrate it. I don't care. It could be a bad deal, but I would be like, I will take anything at the wide receiver spot right now.
Golden Tate for AJ Green, straight swap. Who says no?
Dude, that's a good deal. I could live with that one. Let's talk about the Chiefs-Raiders game, and then we'll finish off with Dak. Raiders beat the Chiefs 40-32. The Chiefs get their first loss. The Raiders are 3-2 on the season. I'll kick this to you. What do you feel? Because the Raiders, man, I feel like it's the same thing as last year. Like, they're pounding the rock like crazy, and they ran the ball 35 times in this game. Ruggs had 2 catches for 120 yards, so it's like he's kind of big player or nothing. Carr moved the ball downfield a little bit. He had 6 passes over 20 yards. He was 4 for 6 on those with 2 touchdowns. But I just can't buy in. I love John Gruden, but I just can't buy into the Raiders stock yet. I just don't believe in Derek Carr is honestly what it comes down to.
Well, the defense of the Raiders was actually getting kind of critiqued to start the season, and so was the defensive coordinator. And then the scheme that they put up and the effort that I think they kind of took some notes from what you saw from what New England did. And it was basically don't blitz Mahomes he's going to scramble out to his right. He's going to scramble out to his left. And if he's going to make unbelievable jaw-dropping plays, you got to allow it. And you just you just shrug your shoulders and say, get him the next play. But the way that the safeties and the way that the corners, but particularly safeties and linebackers, were moving with Mahomes, and they were moving with the targets as they went towards the sideline. Now, if Mahomes is going to do something crazy and he's going to throw from the left side of the field to the right side of the field, like I said, you just shrug your shoulders. But they did a great job of limiting that and limiting his plays outside the pocket, because it was almost every single play in the second half where Mahomes broke containment, went off script, and scrambled to the right, scrambled to the left. And that was a great job what the Raiders did to just contain it, because that's what you can do to Patrick Mahomes. So that was very impressive defensively. They need to continue that, week by week game planning scheme. But Bobby, the main difference with Derek Carr, and you said it, he has been throwing the ball downfield. That was his main critique, and why people were talking about over the offseason that John Gruden may be ready to move on with a different quarterback. Despite Carr being so efficient, he was doing nothing special to separate himself from any other average quarterback. Now, Football Outsiders has a metric where they actually do measure how much you are separating yourself from the average level player. Think of the WAR measurement in baseball. It's called value over average in football and for Football Outsiders. And Derek Carr is ranked 5th in the National Football League right now out of all quarterbacks in terms of his value over average. And it's significant. He's 7th in the National Football League in terms of quarterback rating, which it's different than the 158.3 quarterback rating. So he's really doing a good job to say, of course they are pounding the rock, but they're also making the most out of when they're throwing the ball. They're getting their rookie wide receivers involved. Ruggs had an incredible touchdown reception where he really showed off his speed, and they're looking good.
Yeah. My worry there is that Gruden has to scheme the downfield stuff, where it's not like, Carr's like, reading a defense like, all right, I got it, quick trigger. Where with Gruden, it's more scheme downfield, and if teams are able to like pick up on stuff, that's why I'm not totally sold on the Raiders yet. Really, it comes down to Derek Carr.
Want to hear a fun fact?
Fun? Is it fun? Is it actually fun?
Yeah. As of before yesterday's game, they had the most defensive pass interference yards in terms of benefiting them, 147, and second place was 134. And there isn't even there's one more team that has 102, and that's actually Sam Darnold. So that stat is completely irrelevant. But there's a fun fact that the Raiders,
Waller's a beast. Darren Waller's a beast for them.
Darren Waller is everything Giants fans wanted Evan Ingram to be.
Yes, he is. All right, last one. We're getting a little buzz. We're opening the fourth one. Dak Prescott, dude. We saw this live. Breaks his ankle. Tony Romo's like, might be a cramp. Like, that's not a cramp.
Oh, Tony.
Promise you that's not a cramp. At first, I thought his shoe fell off because it looked like we were looking at his heel, and that was his ankle. I don't even know, have a take on this. Besides, it just sucks. It sucks that a guy playing on the franchise tag gets this. Now, if I know Jerry Jones, I think they will take care of him going forward because, say what you want about Jerry Jones, but I do think he actually cares about the guys in the building. He plays hardball and stuff, but I do think he does. Look at the way they treated Garrett. They treated firing him like a freaking funeral. I wish they would have kept his ass. I can't stand Jason Garrett. That being said, do you think this team in this weak-ass NFC East, they're currently in first place with 2 wins, or they're a half a game up on the Eagles. Do you think they win the division with Andy Dalton? Because, you were on them last week. I said the Eagles, but, does this change how you feel about, the Cowboys? Obviously it changes, but do you think they still win the division with Andy Dalton?
Carson Wentz was slinging it around a little bit on this past weekend against the Steelers, but I still don't think it's going to be enough because I think the Eagles are just they're just broken. I think the Eagles they're broken as a football team. Now Dallas is pretty close behind. They were pretty broken to begin with the lack of offensive line. But what you saw from Andy Dalton is he came in against the Giants and he was fearless. You said this on our Talking Giants episode where came in, threw the ball downfield, and he won the game. He didn't just come in and he didn't game manage and he didn't just lead a 10-play, 75-yard drive to just kick a field goal. because the Giants' defense was just bad and they were allowing holes. No, he was fearless. He threw the ball out to Michael Gallup, who didn't see anything all
It's
day.
kind of cool with that new visor, to be honest.
Yeah, and
Looks like a creative player on Madden.
You even saw him after the game ended and after the field goal was kicked, and didn't overly celebrate. Just gave a little fist bump. It's like, yeah, I did my job. Like, that's what I'm supposed to do. So this Dallas offense has the talent, but it's just a matter of can the Dallas – I mean, frankly, here's a little spin. Now that Dak is maybe out, there may be a little bit more of an emphasis of running the ball, controlling the time of possession. The Dallas Cowboys have been one of the teams to pass the most on 1st and 10. Their first down pass rate has been tremendous. Yes, they've been losing a lot of games, but this could incentivize them to try to control the clock a little bit so they can keep their defense off the field. And we've always said that a good offense, it very much helps your defense as much as anything.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I still think the Eagles pull this out somehow. It's not going to be pretty, but they're going to pull it out somehow. All right, that's a 4-pack. We'll be back with whatever. Subscribe, like, do all that stupid crap. Peace.